Welcome back to the show, everyone. It's the new year. And you know what that means.
Resolution.
Resolutions, exactly. That's right. And one that seems to be gaining a lot of traction lately is dry January.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
It really is. Giving up alcohol, at least for the month. Sounds good in theory, but is it just one of those things people say they'll do, or are there actual benefits that stick around? And is it really possible? With all the temptations.
Especially this time of year.
Exactly. So we're gonna just dive right into it. Dry January, the science behind it. Let's look at the social aspects. And you know what? While we're at it, give you some tips on how to actually make it through the month.
So it all started as this small campaign, believe it or not, over in the UK.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's kind of exploded. I mean, now you're looking at like over a third of American adults say they're gonna try it.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, it's clearly resonating with people.
There's definitely something to it, something that's, pulling people in.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of curious, why now? What do you think's driving this interest?
Well, I think people are just becoming more aware of their relationship with alcohol. And it's not necessarily about, never having another drink again. It's more about just taking a pause, hitting that reset button, and just figuring out, okay, how does this really fit into my life?
Yeah, just being a little more mindful about it.
Exactly.
And we've actually got a great example right here in Omaha, Dry Spokes.
Oh, I've heard of it.
Have you heard of it? It's this non-alcoholic bar.
Oh, how cool is that?
It's owned by Miyamata.
Okay.
And she's really kind of, riding this wave and showing people that you can have social gatherings, you can enjoy yourself without, needing the alcohol to be front and center.
Yeah. You don't have to have a drink in your hand to have a good time.
Absolutely. And what's really interesting is she's actually creating these drinks. They're so sophisticated and so delicious, and there's no booze in them.
Mocktails. I've actually tried a couple. They're amazing.
They really are good. And it kind of breaks that, old idea that to have an adult beverage, you have to have alcohol in it.
Right. And I think that's one of the biggest hurdles for people who are thinking about, maybe cutting back or even doing dry January is that social aspect. What do you do when you go out with friends?
Well, that's where a place like Dry Spokes comes in and makes it a little easier.
Absolutely. Provides that environment.
Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit and talk about some of the health stuff. So we've got Rebecca Beaudoin. She's a dietitian over at Nebraska Medicine.
Okay.
And she points out one of the biggest benefits you can get is just reducing your risk for cancer.
Wow. Now that's something I think a lot of people don't realize.
You don't have to give up alcohol completely to get that benefit, even those little breaks.
Yeah.
Even dry January can make a difference.
Even that little bit of time gives your liver a chance to, kind of reset and get back to doing what it needs to do.
Yeah, it's like a little vacation for your liver.
Exactly.
All right. So let's debunk another myth while we're at it. The whole red wine is good for you thing.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic.
We've all heard it. What's the truth there?
Yeah, so while it's true that red wine has those antioxidants, you can actually get those same antioxidants from other sources, without the downsides of the alcohol.
Like what? Give us some examples.
Like berries,
Yeah.
grapes, even dark chocolate has a ton of antioxidants.
Okay, so swap out that glass of wine for a handful of berries.
Right, much better for you.
And we can't talk about alcohol without talking about calories.
Oh, those empty calories.
Right. It adds up so fast.
And they don't give you anything back.
Not really. No nutritional value.
Nope. So cutting back, even for a short time, can really help with weight management and even just give you more energy.
Yeah, it's all about making those mindful choices, isn't it?
Exactly.
Like everything we've talked about today really comes back to that.
It's all connected.
It is. I mean, Miyamata creating a space where people don't feel pressure to drink. And then Rebecca Beaudoin saying, start small, make those changes gradually.
It's about giving yourself the power to choose what works for you.
Absolutely. So let's say someone's listening right now and they're thinking, okay, dry January sounds good. Where do I even start?
Well, Rebecca Beaudoin recommends starting with a goal that you can actually stick to. Instead of going cold turkey, maybe try swapping one alcoholic drink a day with a non-alcoholic one.
Ooh, that's good.
Or maybe pick a few days a week to go completely alcohol-free.
And that's where a place like Dry Spokes can be so helpful. Because you can go out and still be social and have a drink in your hand, but it's not alcoholic.
Right. You don't feel like you're missing out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So whether you're, all in on dry January or just thinking about being a little more mindful this year, it all comes down to, well,
You have the power to make the choices that work for you.
Exactly. You get to decide what you consume. You get to decide how you experience social gatherings. It's all up to you.
And you never know. You might discover a new favorite mocktail.
Oh, yeah.
Or you might even just realize that, hey, I actually enjoy the break from alcohol.
Maybe that's the biggest takeaway here. It's not about deprivation. It's about making choices that make you feel good.
Inside and out.
Exactly. Mentally, physically, the whole package.
And who knows, maybe those choices will stick with you even after January's over.
Maybe dry January can turn into mindful February.
Maybe even mindful March.
Maybe mindful year.
Maybe.
I feel like we always hear about dry January, but is it really just a fad?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
Or is there something more to this whole thing?
Well, I mean, just looking at the numbers, it's pretty massive.
Yeah.
The article said over a third of American adults are giving dry January a shot.
Wow.
And think about it, this isn't even an American idea originally.
It's not.
Nope, it started in the UK.
Huh, interesting.
So the fact that it's caught on like this here,
Yeah.
that kind of suggests, to me at least, that something's shifting in
Yeah.
how we view drinking,
Absolutely. It's definitely not just a small group of people anymore.
Sure.
It's like mainstream now.
Totally.
The article actually talks about this woman, Miyamata.
Okay.
She owns a non-alcoholic bar called Dry Spokes.
Wow. A non-alcoholic bar?
Mm-hmm.
That's a cool concept.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And she was saying she's seeing all sorts of people coming in for dry January.
I bet.
It's not just one type of person.
Right.
It's like a whole mix.
Yeah, and what I find really fascinating about that
What's that?
is that it highlights how people have all these different reasons for dry January.
Yeah.
Some folks, they're all about the health benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Others, they're just curious.
Yeah.
They want to see what it's like. It's a personal thing, Everyone's
right.
got their own why.
Absolutely. But speaking of health, we can't ignore that aspect.
Oh, for sure.
The dietitian they interviewed for this piece, Rebecca Baudouin, she specializes in cancer prevention and survivorship
Wow.
at Nebraska Medicine.
That's serious stuff.
It is.
Yeah.
And, that link between alcohol and cancer.
Right.
It's something people don't always want to talk about.
It can be uncomfortable
Yeah.
to think about, right?
It is.
But it's real.
It is real, yeah.
And honestly, even if we set aside the cancer risk for a moment,
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about empty calories here.
Yeah.
Alcohol doesn't give your body the nutrients it needs,
Right. It's not exactly fuel for the body.
Exactly.
It's more like fun fuel, I guess.
Yeah, there's that, huh?
Well, there's always that whole thing about red wine being good for the heart.
Oh, the red wine myth.
Yeah, I was going to say myth.
So persistent, isn't it?
It is. Everyone's heard it, right?
Yeah.
So what's the truth?
Well, Rebecca Baudouin actually addresses that directly.
She does.
She says you're much better off getting those antioxidants from actual food. Right. It's about quality nutrition, not just hoping for the best.
Okay, so red wine is out.
Well, it's not that black and white.
Sure.
Moderation is key, as always.
Right. Yeah.
But as Baudouin points out, you can get those same benefits and more from a healthy diet.
That makes sense.
And I think her advice about starting small and being realistic is so important.
Yeah, that's good advice.
It can be overwhelming to think about making big changes.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially with something like drinking, which can be so ingrained in our habits and culture.
It really is.
So instead of going from daily drinks to 0 overnight,
Right.
which, let's face it, is probably setting yourself up for failure,
Yeah, that's tough.
why not focus on those small wins?
Yeah, I like that.
Maybe you cut back one night a week,
Yeah.
or you try a smaller glass size.
Right.
It's about progress, not perfection.
That's a good way to look at it.
And those small changes can really add up over time.
Absolutely. It's like, instead of just taking something away,
Mhm.
we should think about what we replace it with.
Ooh, I like that.
Right? Like, swap out that sugary soda
Yep.
for a glass of water.
Sparkling water with some lime is my go-to.
Ooh, I like that.
It feels fancy.
Yeah. Or grab some fruit instead of chips when you're snacky.
Exactly. It's not about depriving yourself, it's about making positive changes.
Love it.
And that reminds me of something else from the article. They mentioned how some people who try dry January at that non-alcoholic bar,
Dry Spokes?
yes, Dry Spokes,
Yeah.
they actually end up coming back all year round.
Really?
Yeah, it kind of sparks something in them,
That's awesome. So it's not just a January thing. It can actually lead to lasting change.
Exactly. It can jumpstart a whole new way of looking at things.
This is really interesting stuff. So
Yeah.
basically, what we've learned from this deep dive today is that Dry January is a lot more than just some passing fad.
For sure.
It's a chance to really rethink how we approach alcohol.
Right.
Maybe we improve our health.
Yeah.
Maybe we discover some delicious non-alcoholic drinks we never knew existed.
Ooh, yes. The mocktail scene is exploding right now.
It is. And it's good stuff.
Right.
So here's a question for everyone listening.
Okay. I like where this is going.
Could exploring those non-alcoholic options
Mm-hmm.
or just being a bit more mindful about how much you're drinking
Yeah,
lead to positive changes in your own life?
that's a great question to ask yourself.
It is.
And hey, maybe dry January is the perfect time to find out.
I think you're right. Thanks for joining us for this Dry January deep dive.
Cheers to that.
We'll see you next time on the deep dive.
Bye, everyone.